Clock in, clock in. Black Gotta just walked in.
Yeah. He already dead, there ain't no need to check his vitals, bitch. He already dead, there ain't no need to check his vitals. Yeah, crunch time, yeah, nigga, it's lunch time. Let go, crunch time, yeah, nigga, it's lunch time. Yeah, crunch time, yeah, nigga, it's lunch time. Let go, crunch time, yeah, nigga, it's lunch time. He dead.
Team Black Gotta stand up, man. Yeah, we back with another video of the Melly case. Right now, we got a witness on the stand showing proof that it was no way it could have been a drive-by shooting, and YNW Melly in Portland was lying.
So this resting angle in this seat, you have the projectile coming in, exiting through the top of the skull, and then continuing through the windshield.
You said windshield.
Sorry, the window.
Can you say that it was at the top of the window, or the bottom of the window, or the middle of the window?
I cannot.
So based on that projectile and the blowback, you can make what opinions?
So based on the angle of this this projectile, the blowback is indicative of a firearm being in close vicinity of the head. The head is something that bleeds profusely when it's pierced. If you've ever fallen on stairs or hit your head, it bleeds like no tomorrow. And
I know y'all see this magical scar that I got right here that I had. Like, this is a legendary scar that y'all see. He is not lying about that. This is a legendary scar that I had forever. You feel what I'm saying? People done even made pictures and then they put my scar in it. Hey, yeah, and by the way, if y'all want to make pictures, send it to me, man. I want to see some pictures, like some graphic pictures. Send it to my inbox. Yeah, but he's not lying. Like, when you do get hit in the head, I mean, like, this thing was bleeding. I'm talking about bleeding. Like, bruh, bad. You feel me?
because the projectile entered in right below the skull, the blowback ended up coming in the direction of, as I was speaking earlier, about the...
I am hoping none of the family members are in here to like witness none of the videos we seen today, because I wouldn't even come to court today. This is some very tough, witnesses to watch speak, especially when you was related to those people and stuff like bro, because like this will make you just remember about how you was feeling, and like this is just, oh man,
in the direction that it came from. And you will get that with a close, with a very close shot. That blowback then proceeded after the shot. It went up, it hit this headliner, and continued and falling into the back seat.
And so I want to go to some of the other photos. There's a yellow jacket that's on the very back of the vehicle. Is it important to know whose DNA and blood was found on that?
What yellow jacket?
Let me come back to that because I have other photos, so we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, so in terms of the location of the firearm that fired the shot, and we were just talking about in CSW 6745, does this attempt to accurately recreate the potential location of that firearm?
So the purpose of this photograph is strictly demonstrative to show where once the projectile enters into the head, you're going to have the blowback, which again will come up, strike the headliner, and then continue. It's actually continuing this way and landing back here behind the driver in this area of the vehicle.
In terms of the driver and the t-shirt that he was wearing, do you take into account the location of the victim's DNA on his shirt?
Well, based upon the blowback pattern up here, I would expect to find some blowback here if on a driver, if a driver was there.
Okay, Sergeant, you can answer that question.
Why don't you restate the question, guys?
So you were discussing that how you would find and determine angles and ranges for specific individuals that are presented to you.
Yes.
How would you do that?
So I would obtain a shooting height, a maximum, what we would determine as a maximum shooting height, which would be standing with your arm out at 90 degrees. That height would be obtained from the ground to your arm, to your finger essentially. And then a minimum shooting height, which would be squatting with the same arm out and measurement from here to your finger. And then that would give me a minimum and a maximum range of fire. Once I have a minimum and maximum range of fire, that gets added into more trig to determine a minimum and maximum distance of that particular shooter.
So with regards to this incident, were you there on scene?
No.
Do you know who fired the shots?
No.
In terms of the shots to the outside of the vehicle, are you aware the individual's already dead when those are fired?
They were already dead, yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
How does that play into your reconstruction?
It comes into play because specifically with Christopher Thomas, because Christopher Thomas was already deceased when these rounds were coming into the back of the vehicle, because Christopher Thomas was what we would call crumbling. He was starting to fall, if you will. And on top of that, I know that he was already deceased because the back of his back, essentially, the rounds that are in his back, have no blood in them, which means that there's no circulation. So the rounds are coming in. Christopher Thomas is crumbling with each round. He's falling with each round, and that's the answer.
Okay. So in terms of, we'll get to the shooting inside the car in a little bit. I want to stick to the outside at this point. When you were looking at the side of the car on the angles of entry and the side-to-side angles that I'm talking about, why is that important in your analysis? I'm going to go back to 4809 to describe those angles.
So these angles are important because it is part of my assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive-by shooting. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done, and all but one is done at a stationary position. The shooter is at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here, the shooter is actually moving in that to create the little bit of a keyhole that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned a keyhole, so I'm going to zoom in on site L and explain what is a keyhole.
So a keyhole is a projectile comes out of the barrel and it is actually spinning in a line. It's also falling as it spins. However, once you add movement to the gun at the same time the projectile is coming out, you introduce that movement to the projectile. Once the projectile has altered movement, it will start to tumble. So it's no longer going in a straight line. It is actually going like head over feet, if you will, as it's entering into its target. And that head over feet gives you this right here, which is essentially the projectile coming in sideways.
And in terms of a drive-by shooting, if two vehicles were moving at 45 miles per hour, what would you expect to see?
So if it's a drive-by shooting, all of these rounds should look like this.
Why?
Because movement is being introduced to that projectile.
In a way, he's right, but in a way, also not right, because like in a drive-by shooting, a car can stop. A car can stop, and then once they done doing what they doing, then pull off, and you know, probably let that one little shot off. But I think we damn near heard the whole video. Hold up.
One of the other sites.
Yeah, we damn near heard
the
the whole
shooter.
video. This is another bit of strong ass information that they do have, and I feel like this is way better than the they did it to get inside of a gang. I already figured they was gonna come through with some of their strong, hardcore evidence, and this is the forensics, and they look very accurate. The reason they look accurate is because they explaining how the shells flying, they explaining how the bullet wounds on the side of the car couldn't have been the ones that did it to the victim, and the ones that's coming from the outside aren't the ones that was the kill shots, and that seems like some strong evidence for sure. It definitely does, and I guess we just gotta see how the defense can respond to this. Damn, boy, it's a little bit too hot out here, boy. I might need some milk.